Here we have fill and vent hoses for a fuel tank on a 1979 sailboat. So one, that means these hoses are around 34 years old, definitely past their service life. And they're also clear vinyl hose. They are not fuel rated hose, so they need to be replaced due to age and type. So today's find, weak support cylinders for this storage locker door. As you can see, the support cylinders are too weak to hold the door in an open position, meaning it could fall down on someone and crack a head or smash fingers. So today's find is a charred AC power plug in an engine compartment. As you can see right here, the plug is melted here, and speaking with the owner, the reason it's melted is you have a high amp draw load, which was you had a heater in here, had a heater to keep the space warm during the winter, and that's what caused this charring. So today's find, burnt AC shore power inlets. You can see the plug here has got a charring, and a corresponding pin is also burnt due to excessive heat buildup, arcing and sparking. We'll check the other inlet, and you can see that the plug here is also burnt, two of them, and you'll look at the inlet, and you'll see that it is also charred and burnt. This is the #1 cause of AC related fires on board, and both inlets and plugs need to be replaced. So here we're in the engine room of a late 80s vintage Taiwanese built trawler. And you see this stuff dripping down here. What this is we call trawler juice. And what it is an indication. This boat has teak decks, and this is an indication that water has intruded into the coring of the deck beneath the teak overlay, which is screwed down with like 1,000,000 screws. And the water has seeped in, and this brown stuff is an indication that there's coring issues, saturation, possible delamination. That's what this, it's deterioration of the coring of the deck, and that's what this stuff is right here. So here we have more evidence of core water moisture intrusion into the deck core, and this is actually on the Lazarette of the same trawler, the Taiwanese built trawler. And you can see right here all the trawler juice running down. This is all indication of coring, wet core. And if you see here, then you got rot right here. Okay, so here's the kind of stuff I always find on boats. So you're looking at the back of a steering wheel, a hydraulic steering system, and you're looking at the pump there, and then we have the rag, right here. Why have we got the rag here? Well, the reason we got the rag is because there's a leak in it, a leak right up here, and the owner hasn't fixed it, so rather than fix it, we just stick a rag right here, and problem solved, right? So here we have a battery box, which is housing a battery bank. The lids on the boxes, as you can see, are not secured. The batteries are in the boxes, but they're not secured. Your batteries have to be secured so that there's no more movement, no more than 1 inch of movement in any direction, up, down, forward, side, whatever. So these batteries, either you need to secure these inside the tray or box here, or you need to secure these, the box lids to prevent the batteries from having excessive movement. So here we have a air conditioning unit, and we have the raw water intake for the air conditioning unit. And here's the strainer here, and the seacock is actually up under there. But what we're going to look at today, this type of hose, this clear vinyl reinforced hose, is not recommended for use below the waterline. So this should be replaced with marine grade hose that's suitable for use on a through hole fitting below the waterline. And also, the other thing we'll point out here is you have a composite fitting screwed into a bronze strainer. This should be a bronze, called a tailpipe. It's a hose barb or a tailpipe. This should be replaced with a
a bronze unit to match the strainer, because plastic or composite and the metal have different expansion and contraction ratios, so that could lead to this cracking. So here we have a shaft brush, which is used to provide cathodic protection against corrosion to the shaft. This is typically when you have a shaft that does not have sinks installed on it. You can see right here, this thing is loose. It's held on with a piece of, with a wire tie. The interior pieces right here, of course, should be making full contact with the shaft at all times. So this is not working as designed and is not properly working.
So here we have a good example of why line cutters are installed on your shaft. This boat here probably tried to pick up a crab pot or something, and the line cutters here, as the rope turned around the shaft, they cut the rope in two. And this is what prevents you from cocooning the line around your shaft and your prop.
Okay, so for today's find, anchoring issues. Okay, so we have an anchor here, Danforth anchor, and we have a line here that I'm going to assume is going to be in some form or fashion used as the anchor rod. Problems with this: there is no chain installed between the anchor and the rope rod. You want to have a small section of chain to prevent chafe and also to add weight to the anchor. The other thing is these quick links right here. These have no business at all in your anchor rod. What you should have is a line with a thimble in here, and this should be connected with the anchor using an anchor shackle, which is what we got right here. Again, totally unset for our needs of and requirements when anchoring. Okay, so today's find, we have a outboard fuel filter installation, and this provides filtration for the outboard. And you can see here the hose, the fuel hose, is secured with a plastic wire tie rather than a hose clamp as it should be. So of course you can't use loose wire ties to make your fuel hose connections. Okay, so today's find or problem: throwable flotation cushions. Okay, we've got two flotation cushions here. The problem is with this one, and there's a couple of problems with it. One, you can tell by looking at it, it is as old as Methuselah. It probably came across with Noah on the ark. The second thing with this problem with this cushion is, if you look at it here on the data tag, it's going to have, a type 4 personal flotation device, blah, blah, blah. But then it's also going to say here, Kapok buoyant material provides a minimum buoyancy force of 20 pounds. So the problem is Kapok comes from the Kapok tree. It is a plant-based material, and it is inside this bag, inside of a vacuum-packed plastic bag. If that bag punctures or ruptures, water can enter into the bag, soak the Kapok. Then when you throw this to somebody, it'll sink like a rock. I can press on this and I can feel that the bag is ruptured and it is no longer waterproof. This flotation cushion, by contrast, uses foam to provide flotation. Okay, for today's find, we've got some problems with this battery installations on a small center console. First off, the batteries are loose. They're not secured properly. And also, this battery is in a box that's too big for the battery itself. Another reason, even if the box was secured, it would be loose. Battery movement, no more than 1 inch in any direction, up, down, side to side. The next thing would be these positive and negative battery terminals are made to connections with wing nuts. Wing nuts are unable to be torqued properly, and they are notorious for working loose. They should be stainless steel lock nuts. Finally, in this installation, unless you have battery box lids, you've got to cover the positive terminals of the batteries with boots or some kind of non-conductive shield
to prevent accidental shorting. Of course, if the battery box lids were installed, that would meet the requirements.
Another issue with this installation is you have two different types of batteries. You've got an AGM and a wet cell. When you have different types of batteries, they have different types of charge voltages that are required to charge them correctly and to charge them to their full capacity. The only charge source you have on this installation is the outboard, and it's got one alternator and it's going to charge either one battery or the other to the proper voltage. If you have it set where it's supposed to charge the wet cell battery, then the AGM is not going to get the proper voltage, or vice versa. So you don't want to mix batteries. Particularly, you don't want to mix batteries if they have one charge source, or if these batteries would be in one bank, make up one bank. You definitely don't want to mix them in that case. So a couple of things going on in the build of this mid-size center console fishing vessel. First up, the raw water intake for the bait well. This seacock is located so far from the opening. I've got arms like an orangutan, and I can't reach it. There's no way in the world. So a remote pull rod needs to be installed so it can be opened and closed. This is especially important in case of an emergency, such as the hose pops off or ruptures. Next up, the cockpit scupper drains shown in red here. There's two of them. They do not have seacocks installed. What they've done instead is installed a check valve that's supposed to keep any water from coming back up at the cockpit. These check valves do not meet ABYC requirements, particularly as these through hulls are located below the static water line, a situation which calls for the installation of seacocks. Today's find, sacrificial anodes on this prop and shaft badly need a replacement. You can see the acorn zinc here is gone, it's loose, it's wasted, and the one on the shaft is so wasted that you can actually just peel it off with your hand. Both of these, of course, are in need of replacement.